Bam! Jason Waller here, true underdog. Hey, if you haven't subscribed yet, go to iHeartRadio, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Click subscribe. We've got some nuggets and some things out there to really help you not only in your life, business, and family and relationships. Also, go to YouTube. We got the True Underdog YouTube channel, and you go to trueunderdog.com and check us out anytime you want for all the podcast information and YouTube information. I've got my host, John LeBlanc, with us today. How are you, John?
Doing well.
And, hey, we've got a special guest today. I like this because being in North Carolina and in Michigan, we have got ourselves a NASCAR driver, Brittney Zamora, 21-year-old from Washington. How are you doing, Brittany?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Hey, super excited to do this interview, right, John?
Absolutely.
So, Brittany, Let's talk about this. I want to hear your story. Let the listeners and viewers know who you are, what you're doing. I mean, you're only 21 years old. I have a daughter that's 21 and she just had a baby. So I've got a granddaughter. So that lifetime is really short. I look at it, I'm like, wow, that just happened. Tell us, who you are, what you're doing, and you're only 21.
Yeah, so I'm living a pretty cool life right now. I started racing when I was 4 years old. I actually followed my dad's footsteps. So second generation racing for my family is a family sport. So my crew chief, my tire changer, everybody is my family, either my grandpa, my uncle, my dad, brothers, family, friends, and it's been that way for 17 years now. I moved on from go-karts to stock cars and currently racing in NASCAR series. I race super late models on the West Coast, which is my family-owned car, and won several championships in those, wins, titles, and then last year was my first year in the NASCAR circuit in the NASCAR ARCA series. And that was a blast. That was just like a glimpse of like what could be for the rest of my life, and I just loved it so much. And that's why we're working this year to try and get to the next step. We're looking forward to racing some Xfinity Series races, which is the second tier of NASCAR. So you only have like one step higher than that. And that's your Kyle Bushes and everybody like that. So it's a blast. It's a true passion. I'm doing that is what makes me the happiest. And it's just, it has its up and down, with anything in life. And you have your good days and you have your not so good days. And it's kind of hard with the times that everybody is in right now to have all those consistently good days in the sport, and trying to get into that NASCAR Xfinity series is tough. We go with Jason's word. We're the true underdog in this series, being like underfunded, trying to get into those top tiers of racing, and we're hoping to hit the track here in a few weeks, but it takes so much time and effort on and off the track that it just consumes your whole life, but I wouldn't want it any different.
Oh, that's really cool that you explain, because a lot of people think that you just race and you have all these sponsors, but as you're growing in this business, you have to find sponsors because it's a very costly, habit or sport. Some people try to do it, having that can't do it anymore. It becomes a sport, becomes a livelihood, becomes a career. It's expensive. I had a cousin of mine that raced in ARCA and Hooters Cup, and I know it was super expensive for him. And it was a long time ago he did that. And I've got some friends that race now, and I'll tell you, to see, females really taking over I would say taking over the sport, but putting their brand on the sport is so important, because it's always been a good old boy sport, and to really see some of the females take it to the next level. My wife's the better driver at home than me. I always say she's like Jeff Gordon. I kind of grandma'd out, right? She kind of goes. So I totally get it. She loves cars. She loves speed. I've got 3 daughters and a son. So I'm always big when we see some females out there really stepping up and changing the game. Talk about that as you started. You're only 21 years old. You graduated high school, I would assume?
Yes.
And you were racing and going to high school.
Yeah.
And your whole family is race, right?
Oh, yes, for sure.
And you're in Washington. For the listeners and viewers out there, you're not in South Carolina or North Carolina in Mooresville, race capital USA. You're in Washington, where they've got big trees and lots of green grass and rain everywhere. How did that even happen?
Yeah, so we have a couple of circuits around here on the Northwest and West Coast that can get everybody within the country involved in some sort of level of NASCAR. And growing up, I started in go-karts. And at that age, we're all so young. I was 4. So I didn't really know the difference. I didn't know that this was a male-dominated sport. I go in there as a driver in general and drive my go-kart, and I want to go out there and win. I think that was good for me to start that way, to know that there wasn't really a difference, you know. My dad always told me that you have one head, two hands, and 2 feet. And if you have all those, then you have everything you need to be a race car driver. So it doesn't make you any different than the guys out there, right? Go-karts were good because we were all so young and we all got along really well. And the girl factor really came in when I started getting into stock cars. And right off the bat, we were super competitive, and I won the championship my first year. I won races. I set track records. So it was great to do that and to go out there and kind of, you know, for those younger girls, be like, you can do it too. You know, if I can do it, you can do it. And just to help kind of pave that pathway for females in racing. But
did you have to deal with not only I hear some adversity there, but any haters, any people being mean, anybody giving you a hard time?
So with those wins, a lot of my competitors after the races in tech, they'd want to go inspect different parts of my car. They told me my shocks were illegal. I had illegal engine packages, like, because they wanted all these excuses because they didn't think that a 14-year-old girl could go beat these 20, 30, 40-year-old men in these race cars. And so nearly every race, somebody wanted to either claim a part of my car or inspect it harder than their car, just to try and find something that they could get me for because they thought I was cheating. And of course, they never found anything because we weren't. We're straight up racers. And so that was kind of hard, you know, trying to get into that stock car world, and you just have all these people like trying to find something to bring you down. And I'm just thankful for my support system, my family, who is kind of just like, ignore them because they're just trying to bring you down. Like, the people that matter are the ones that you come to the racetrack with.
What would that look like? I mean, if you're 14-year-old girl at this time and you've got these grown men coming over and questioning you, I mean, you said you had a strong support system, but like your dad and your uncle and if you have a brother, I think you mentioned, like what's that? I mean, how do they not get super defensive on like just telling them back off?
Yeah, right. They kind of had that family like natural instinct, especially my dad and my brother are just kind of like there to protect me. But I think it was also good for me to kind of get like to see that for myself, because it helped me stand up for myself in the sport. And going through the years from 14 to now 21, you still see a little bit of that within the sport today. So I think having that experience helped me become the racer that I am today, because I know that to stand up for myself, and I know that despite if I'm male or female, that I belong in the sport.
Right. I think that's so cool that you were dealing with that at such a young age. I couldn't imagine being 14 and being told I don't belong or that I'm cheating when all I'm doing is trying to win. Right. So I'm sure that really gave you some thick skin that's helping you now in this game. Let's talk about, you know, I thought was amazing is you won, I think, two years that you were the series champion in the late model cars, and you were the first female to do that, correct?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, because I like bragging rights. I like awards and records, right? So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So growing up, my dad had always raced a super late model, so it was my dream to race one, and they're the most competitive series within the West Coast. You have guys like Kyle Busch who step down on the weekends or free weekends to race super late models. So I'm like, these things are my dream cars, and I get in one. The first year I was rookie of the year. We've been really close to those podium finishes. The second year I had that first year experience, so I had something behind me going into all those races, and we never gave up. We put everything that we could into that season. I drove my butt off every single race, and we got the first wins. We got those track records. We won the championship, and we became the first female to win even a race in a super late model on the entire West Coast ever. So wow, that was pretty cool, you know, to have that with me going on with my career. And then to back it up the second year in 2018 just kind of was like, you know, proves that we earned it the first year.
Wow, congrats. That's amazing.
It is amazing.
I've got a question. So, you know, you had mentioned, you know, some of the resource that it takes to really like truly compete, right? And you guys are kind of like a family run competitive car, right? So like what happens when you see wrecks all the time, and like what plays into that, and how do you crawl out of maybe that hole depending on how bad the wreck is?
Yeah, so I've had a few where, you know, like it's bad enough we have to replace the whole front end of the chassis. Like I had a tire blow on me and I went straight into the wall like over 100 miles an hour and had to change the whole front end of the chassis. And that's where it gets tough. That's where, you know, that underdog theory comes back in, is because we race based off of my family's income, because it's so hard to get sponsors out here on the West Coast, you know. So that's what we primarily race our super late model on. And so when you do get into a wreck like that, we come home, unload it in our little garage out in our backyard, and we take it apart. Like, I'm out there, my dad's out there, our family's out there repairing the car and doing what we have to get to the next race. And it's also a little bit different in the NASCAR world. Like, within the NASCAR series, you know, you have a team that kind of helps you do that for you. But so it's like two different ways of racing. But with the family run system, yeah, it's definitely us going out there and us taking the fenders off or redoing the wheel hubs and everything like that. We get down to the nitty gritty.
That's wild.
Who's your favorite race car driver? Besides your dad, obviously your dad, but besides your dad.
I gotta say, right now in the Cup Series, I really like Denny Hamlin.
Okay.
You have a picture with him, I saw.
I do, yeah, after his win last year in Phoenix.
He's a hot racer right now, isn't he? He's like, is he number one, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, I think he's second, but he's right there neck and neck for first. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think he lives in Mooresville too. I think I've met him before. I'm not sure. I think we've met. We belong to the same country club, I think. So
Oh, okay.
I'm not big into racing. Like my wife grew up in racing in North Carolina, and I went a few times, and I got to drive a limo on the track one time because I was in the infield. But it's hard for me. I want to get into it, but there's not enough. You know, when Earnhardt was in it, my dad watched it. I watched it. There's not enough realness. It seems, my opinion, it seems too much. It's corporate now. And there's too many things people are limited on. I like to see the real interaction. It seems to be coming back a little bit. Kyle Busch is one of my favorites. You know, has a big mouth. I like that. He's honest, says how he feels, deals with it. I like that. But is it Bubba Wallace? We've got some minority race car drivers in there doing well. We've got some females in there, kind of diversifying the whole entire race spectrum. I think that's pretty cool stuff going on. And, you know, I think we're doing a deal with IndyCar guy, Joseph Newgarden. I don't know if you know him,
Yes.
but, you know, what would you say is the biggest difference in your driving stock cars and Indy cars? What would you say, since you're on this side of the spectrum, what is the biggest difference of that?
I don't know. That's tough because I've never been had the experience with an Indy car before. So I know the driving styles are a lot. Stock cars are big, heavy tanks, you know, that you're trying to get around the corner and you just try to keep up speed because they're so heavy. So if you lose that speed, it's hard to get it back. So I'm not sure on that end of the spectrum with the IndyCar side of things, but I'm a fan. I love going to their races, and any type of racing, I'm there. I'll be watching it.
What's the fastest you've ever gone?
At Bristol last year, we went 155.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's a half mile, so that's pretty fast on a half mile.
That is fast.
Yeah.
So your goals right now, so you had to overcome some adversity with that, with people trying to hold you back, and it being a predominantly male, good old boy program, wherever you are, that's kind of what it was, and still kind of is. And, you know, you've overcome that. You're very positive. You've had some great success, and you've kind of got that plan and mission there. But, you know, what other things have been struggles for you? Where are some spots where you thought, you know what, I don't know if this is for me? Have you hit any of those things in your career where you start to second guess and you really got to grind and change your mindset?
Yeah, so as of being behind the wheel, I know that's what I want to do for a career. I want to go race on Saturdays and Sundays as my career. And getting to that point, it takes a lot of work. I feel like maybe some of it is still kind of that good old boy club. Like, if you have the last name or, you know, if you know the right people, then you're going to get in a lot easier. And that's kind of it kind of brings you down a little bit. You're like, dang, what do I need to get to that next level? And it's millions of dollars, you know, and with our family budget, trying to get into the Xfinity series and, you know, really just advance your career, it's really hard. You have to sell yourself as a driver. You have to prove what you've done. You go in there and you say, this is what I can do for you. This is what we can do as a team. This is how we can benefit each other. And it's a beneficial partnership when you get with a sponsor and you go out there and you have their name on the side of the car and just things you can do for them. But it's that in-between work. It's when you take the helmet off and you go home and you're working on getting those sponsorships, and you'll get 100 no's before you get even a maybe or a yes, you know? So to hear those no's all the time is kind of hard, but you know that you're just one no closer to the yes, and that if you just keep working, you're going to get those opportunities, and it's slowly making its way, up to the top, up to where we need to be to get that Xfinity Series start and get that exposure in the NASCAR world. And kind of what you're saying, like coming from the good old boys club to bringing up the minorities and bringing up the females. And I believe I could be one of those first females in the Xfinity Series to bring a new platform and bring new fans to the NASCAR world. And knowing that just would make me like that enjoy racing as a career that much more. So you just got to keep your head up, and you're going to have those not so good days that you're just like,
Yeah.
What the heck's going on? Why is this so hard? But I believe you have that with any job that you have. So you just got to keep your head high.
I think that mindset of so many no's equals a yes. We deal with that in our business with sales. We deal with it. I mean, you deal with it anytime in life. That's really a life lesson, Brittany, that I think that at an early age, which is good for you, which is good for you to have that thick skin and have that rejection or that failure in order to learn and be stronger, bigger, better, faster, in order to succeed. And you're right. If you have the mindset of every no is closer to a yes, that is absolutely true. That is the mindset you have to keep. Because too many people, they get on that road and then they quit, or they, alter their feelings of what they want to do or how they're going to feel about something or what their goals are. And they change that too much, and they let the outside world control them. I think you've done a really good job of, even with the obstacles of, the funding, it is an expensive thing. And, you've got a family that's got to take care of not only, help you race, but their own bills, their own life, your own, brother, kids, whatever it is. And then to do that. So, also becoming marketable. You seem like you're very marketable. You're very intelligent. You seem like you got high energy. I think that's important that you continue to try to market yourself that way and stay positive, because too many people point the finger and complain. And I think you've done a really good job of being like, look, these are the obstacles, but I'm closer to get there, and I'm going to take the positive path. I mean, John, what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, just thinking about it and hearing you talk through it, like, going out and getting your own sponsors and having your family go out and do that all the time. Like that's probably like an ongoing thing for you guys. Like it's always in the back of your head of who I can ask or who would be a good partner. And then you've got sponsors that probably fall off at some points, and maybe that's a hit, and you've got to re-game plan your whole approach to this. So this experience that you're going through at this age is so cool. It's so cool to hear, and I appreciate you so much for doing that and sharing that.
Yeah, I think the listeners and viewers will need to not only, look you up and follow you, but understand that, this is in your blood. This is in your DNA. This is what you want to do, right? There's something to be said about that. We get on the show, or I do some of the sales meetings, and I preach this all the time, that if people are making all the money in the world, or they're super successful, but they hate what they do and they're not happy, they're losing in life. If you're not making a lot of money, but you love what you do, you are winning. And I think you're kind of in the middle, and you have this path of where you could get to the next level, but you love what you do. And we see that. And I think that people can really learn from you, even as a 21-year-old race car driver with this path and dream of where you want to go, of look, like, you're happy. And that's step one. That exuberates not only to fans, but to your family and people that are working with you on your team. They see that you're excited and you love it. They get behind that. And I think it's important that you stay focused like that, because you're going to hit more bumps, obviously, but I think things are going to be good for you. I have this good feeling. You've got a good resume. You've got a great personality. You've got a great head on your shoulders. You've obviously got a great support mechanism in your family. And a lot of people don't have those things. And, you having those things you're blessed. You have those assets to utilize. I just think you got to keep grinding and keep knocking those doors, keep talking to people. Hey, let me race and be your sponsor. We're going to get you this, we're going to get you that. And just keep doing the hustle. Cause you're right. When racing is one part of the job, which I couldn't do, I would be scared I'm going to crash. I would get pissed off at people that cut me off. I'd run them into the wall or drag them out of the car and want to fight them on the speedway. Like that would be me. I couldn't do it. They'd probably arrest me, but the hustle in between, I get. Like finding sponsors and say, look, this is what I've done, and get on this, and help me, and I'm going to help you. That kind of attitude that people don't, and you are part of doing that. You and your family, your team. That's next level. A lot of people with the same name or with money, they're handed that map I know this. I lived in Mooresville. I'm not going to name names, but I can, on two hands filling them up, I can name race car drivers that shouldn't be racing, that are racing because of their last name and or the money they had, period. We both can agree on that. So for you to fight against that system, right, to not be the person who's silver spoon fed in racing because of their name or their contacts or their money, you know, that is an underdog story. That is exciting to see you guys. And on the other opposite side of the world in the United States, like Washington, not North Carolina, not good old boy, hillbilly race car city, Mooresville. And I say that with all due respect because I live there and I can, you know, but yeah, you're in Washington and that's not big time there. And you're taking it to the next level. I would ask you this, how do people, if people want to follow you or reach out to you, what is the best way for them to follow up with you and your team?
Yeah, so I'm active on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Brittney Zamora. And I have a few racing pages too that are strictly racing. But, you know, a lot of the fans like to see your personal lives too. So I kind of have an intermix of those on my personal pages. I'm all there. So you can go follow me. There's racing updates, there's life updates, all that good stuff.
That's really cool. John, what other things did you want to ask
I want to know, like, what's next for you? I know we talked about, obviously, Xfinity Series, but, you know, what stages have you set for the rest of this year, maybe moving into next year? And are there events or races that you have planned out right now that maybe we could note down?
Yeah, the schedule's a little slow right here now on the West Coast because of the time given. We've only, like this year, we've only had 5 late model races, and usually we have like 15 by this time. But we're looking to go down to California down in December, I believe it is, with our super late model. And then we're looking to get those Xfinity starts this year. So you have to make your way up the different track sizes. So we're approved for everything up to a mile. So that's why we want to go get those Xfinity starts this year and check off all those boxes so that the start of 2021, we can go do maybe a full season, a half season, however many we can of Xfinity races. So that will be our primary goal for 2021.
You know, one other thing, I mean, I want to kind of give you some business advice, right? I can't race, girl. You can outrace me every day of the week, twice on Sunday, I'm sure. And I definitely don't know what it's like to be in an industry that's predominantly female and I'm male. I don't know what that's like either. But I can tell you this, the hustle to go get sponsors, if you put on that smile, you have that same energy. I have a motto called act as if, or fake it till you make it, right? You've already got a very, very strong resume. I mean, that's a badass resume right there. You need to go in and you need to flaunt it. You need to be confident just like you are. You need to walk in and not quit, dial and dial and dial till your fingers start bleeding, calling, sending letters, applications, videos, pictures, harass people. Brittany, you want them to say, please quit sending me shit. I never want to talk to you again. You're going to have to bring it so hard. And if you do those things, I promise you're going to start to see that needle move a little bit. It's just got to be an attack plan like no other. I mean, I remember opening the security business and I'm like, how am I going to sell alarms to pay my bills? I want to at least leave Verizon. How am I going to do that? We put flyers out and it was enough. Put more flyers out, knock on more doors, harass people till they can do that. And then we would telemarket to sell home security. It was, I want you to get on the phone and I want them to say they're either buying or they want you to never call them again forever. I didn't want to just make friends, right? You got to be drive, you got to be hungry. And I think that if you guys can take that, you and your team, and you stay that persistent, that aggressive, you're going to have to be aggressive and you're going to have to put yourself on the top, right? You don't want to be like asking, you need to be acting as if you're doing them a favor. They need to be grateful they're getting on your car. Hey, I want you to do this and this is going to help you. And here's why. When that mentality continues to click 100 times, you're going to get a few more yeses that keep going. I'm telling you, I think there's great things on the horizon for you there. You just got to stay aggressive. You've got a great resume. I would even paint it bigger. Like, this is what I'm going to do. And this is what's about to happen. And you want to be a part of this because of that. And that kind of attitude and mindset, be loud. I'm a big believer. I tell my kids, if there's lions and there's sheep, and you're right, there's not a lot of females in racing, but there's a handful. Yeah. And you want to be different than them, then you need to market yourself different than them. whatever that is. You need to dig deep and say, what makes me different than them? And I'm going to exploit that. I'm going to show that. I'm going to rub it in everyone's face that this is why I'm different and better. Once that clicks in and you've got that, I promise things are just going to, they're just going to spiral in. I believe that. I mean, I'm a big believer. If I'm in your shoes, this is just me. I'm not telling you to dye your hair blue or something, but I want to stand out. My nephew is getting, scouted for football sometimes. And he was wanting to, get his hair, and his mom was giving him a hard time. My sister-in-law was giving him a hard time about cutting his hair or doing a what is in from the South. No, the other thing that's in the Billy Ray Cyrus old look, the
mullet.
The mullets. And he was like all nerd. Like, she's like, don't get a mullet. I'm like, dude, I would get a mullet. I would dye that shit blonde. I mean, my hair's dyed blonde. I would stand out. So when they're going through, they go, who's this guy? You want to stand out. I don't know what it is you need to do, but you got to find something that makes you stand out a little bit different, because you're right. You only get a few seconds to talk to these people, and it is first impression. And, I think as a business owner, people want something that's marketable. It's great that you got the stats and you've already got that, but how are you going to market different? How are you going to be passionate? Things like this, getting on a podcast, are great. And you can speak. You're 21 years old and you're over here running your own show. Yeah. You're ahead of the game, Brittany, by a long shot, but you need to be getting your face out there and exuberating high energy, passion, love. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's what makes me different. And not be scared to toot your own horn, because nobody else is going to toot it for you. It's your job to toot your own horn. Yeah. That's what you need to have that confidence to really move to the next step. I mean, John, you agree? Like I'm getting excited. Like, this is what I would do. I'd be banging on doors. I'd be like, this is me. You're going to want this because of that. I'd be all jacked up. Right, John?
This is coming from one of the best salespeople I've ever met. So certainly you could take the advice. I encourage you to, but Jayson's right. And here, I think it's a great time, Brittany. I never fell in love with NASCAR. Matter of fact, I never fell in like with NASCAR, but right now, without sports, I have been watching NASCAR.
There you go.
My brother has gotten me on Clint Boyer. And I feel like when you have somebody to watch and you watch them navigate, and then you start to understand from the announcers and start to learn the sport, I think there's a lot of people gravitating either back to or to the sport. So, when we can grab onto somebody that we know, right? Like a Brittney Zamora, and watch her race. I think that could be a cool thing.
I like to use Money Mayweather. You know him, right?
Yes, I do.
So you know why he sells. I mean, he is really one of the greatest fighters ever, but he sells so many pay-per-views because he's the bad guy. I'm not telling you to be the bad guy, but stay with me.
No, I get, yeah.
He's really not like that. It's a marketing thing.
Yeah.
And so there's two routes. There's a decision when you're at a stop sign. There's three roads you can take. You can take road number one, and you could fly under the radar and let your numbers be your deal. Right? This is my deal. This is who I am. I'm ready to go. And you could have some success with that, and you could not. It may take a little longer because it's just numbers. You're nothing special but numbers, right? You won some races. Okay, great. Or you get two options. You can either redefine yourself and market yourself completely differently, or you can be real and market yourself, just be really loud and share who you are. Either one is effective. I'm going to tell you what Money Mayweather did. Jamie Foxx talked about it before on Joe Rogan's podcast. I hated, Floyd Mayweather. I was like, dude, I can't stand that guy. He's burning money. He's roller skating on money. Nobody likes that guy. Turns out this is all a ploy. He used to be Pretty Boy Mayweather. Everyone kind of remembers. He's, you're a little young, and everybody loved him. But he wasn't selling enough tickets. He wasn't getting enough pay-per-views. So he became a villain. He became what everybody would despise. So he could get more pay-per-views and get more money. Right? And get more fame. He's still the greatest fighter. That doesn't change anything. He's still a good human being outside of boxing, but he makes people hate him and pay to watch him lose, and he never loses. That's one route. He redefined himself as a villain to market himself. That's genius. That makes him not only the best boxer, one of the smartest boxers on the planet, because he was able to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. He's not being fake or posing. He's marketing himself as a villain. Or you can take the route of passion and excitement and hunger, like a LeBron James or a Michael Jordan. You get what you get, but I'm going to be loud, and I'm going to be a leader, and I'm going to be in your face, and I'm going to market myself as the greatest thing coming up, or what have you. That kind of tangible item. But if you just sit in cool mode, you're going to sit in cool mode. You have got to really pick how to market yourself. And everybody's different. I mean, there's not a wrong way, Brittany. There's never a wrong decision. It's your decision, your family's decision. But that gives you an edge, because if you have another person, female, male, white, black, green, doesn't matter, and they have similar results, what is going to make you different? What is someone going to look at that's going to say, man, she's different? Maybe it's some crazy thing you do after you win a damn race. I don't know. Maybe it's the energy you have when you get on an interview. Maybe it's like the passion you have and how fired up you get if you get wrecked or someone cuts you off. People want passion and realness. They chase that. They want to connect with that. They don't want the same. I'm not saying you're the same. I haven't watched enough of your races, but I'm saying if I'm you, I'm finding a way to market myself to make me different or bigger, better, badder than everyone else on the planet. So I get that thing faster, right? That's my opinion. That would be my business advice. Racing, I may have to hit you up. I got some cool exotic cars. I don't know how to drive them real fast. My wife does. You know, maybe if we're ever in town, we'll have you show me how to drive. She'll probably race you on a car. She'll get smoked, but I'm scared. They got a M1 course here that a buddy of mine, Prater, wants to race. He's got a Hellcat, and I've got a Lambo, and I think the Lambo would smoke him, but I couldn't smoke him. I can't race. I have to send Liz to do it, my wife. I suck at driving, but sure you could do very well. John, you agree? Go ahead.
Sorry, what were you saying?
No. So what do you think about what I just said?
No, I appreciate the advice 100%. And I believe you're right. And we've kind of been on the track to like figure that out. Like what does make me different besides my looks or being girl, you know, like what makes me stand out in NASCAR. And we kind of started with a few programs to help, you know, use my platform for the better of other people and other organizations. And I've always been kind of like a shy person. Like I can
tell. You're going to have to come out of that box. Come out of that box.
Yeah, but you can't do that in racing. And that's another thing that racing has taught me is how to speak to people and how to get myself out there and like to show who I truly am. And we've been working on that a little bit more, and you can see the results and the fan attraction and just by showing people who you are and what you're about. And so we're definitely expanding on that, and we'll continue to do so throughout my career.
I love that. And I was intimidated to do sales meetings back in the day when I was 24 years old and everyone worked for me was older, had college degrees, and I had to tell all these people what to do. And it took a breaking point for me to actually snap and finally get it that, oh, I'm in charge. I need to have more confidence and not be scared. I don't think that you have any of that because you speak very well. But, you know, the other thing is when you're going through and trying to find this, you know, always add a little bit of mustard on that thing, right? You're going to say, just boom, just put something out there, right? Something that makes it a little bit more. I'm a big fan of that. You know, T.O., he scores a touchdown, he pulls out the Sharpie, he signs it. That's what made him T.O., right? You'll find something because you've got good character, you got a good family, you're good people, but you can't be shy. You just can't. In this business, if you're going to brand yourself, the thing I've learned, and trust me, when they started putting my face on commercials and on vehicles, John will tell you, I'm kind of a little douched out. Like, this is weird. I don't know if I like that. I got bothered. But now it's to a point, if I want to help our company go public and I want to help my brand help build that company and level them off, I have to be out there pushing the brand. So I get out there and smile and do my thing and get extreme and get loud and be real. And it is an adjustment. We all go through it. I'm 40 years old. I still have to go, how can I really market myself better? It's always challenging yourself. But I think I'm excited to follow you and see what kind of career you're going to have, because I think you've got some good things in store. And I'll be watching and paying attention. And I'll be talking to my boy Joseph Newgarden next week and see what he thinks too, because he's real big. I mean, he's won 2 out of the 3 Indy series. And I'm not big into racing a little bit, but, you know, I started watching him recently and I'm like, wow, this is cool. And he's a marketing guy. He's a marketing genius. And he's doing some things. And I don't think he used to be loud. He used to be very quiet. And now he's pretty loud, you know. So, you know, kind of following something like those footsteps. He's only like 30 years old or something. But he's pretty loud now. He has his own little show and they come up on his trailer and he's like, hey, guys. And, you know, he's cooking and doing stuff. He was not like that, I don't think, 5 or 6 years ago. Very timid and quiet. So I'm excited to see what happens with you in your racing career, and kudos to all of your records that you broke and the championships. If you ever get out to the Carolinas or Michigan, shoot me an email. We'd love to come, you know, bring the family out to see you race and say hey. And I'll definitely share that not only this podcast, everybody, but your story, because I think it's exciting to see a young female that's excited about racing and has it in her DNA and is ready to take on the world. So we'll definitely be pulling for you. And I appreciate you sharing your story. And there any final words that you want to add?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you guys for your time and your advice. It definitely is going to be used. And if I'm ever out in the area or racing, I'd definitely like to have you guys out to a race and get that real fan experience. So I'll keep in touch with you guys for sure.
Yes, please do. Thank you, Brittany. And you guys can check out this podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You check out our YouTube, True Underdog YouTube channel, or you can go to trueunderdog.com. We'll see you soon. Bam! And that concludes another episode here on True Underdog. If you're interested in hearing more, make sure you subscribe at iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or the YouTube channel. You can always visit trueunderdog.com, subscribe to all of them. Make sure you check out our newest episodes coming out on Mondays and Thursdays. True Underdog, baby. Bam!